Hello everyone, this is Pendy.
And this is Paul, also known as EastX Twitch. Otherwise known as EastX Twitch. Pendy, are you behind this?
You bet I am. I learned the fart spell.
Oh, for Buddha's sake, have you been hanging around with Maylube again?
Maybe a little bit. You don't like my fart spell? As Maylube explains it, the fart spell has a full evolutionary path. You've already experienced fart, but then there's more fart.
Whoa, what the heck, man?
Full fart.
This is embarrassing.
Multi-fart.
That definitely wasn't me.
And omni-fart.
That's it. Take this. Malacloso!
Oh, what did you want of me? This is so strange. I don't want it under right. For the love of the goddess, I need to get this. I need to go get this fixed.
Oh man. While Pendy rearranges his jaw and washes his trousers, I'll welcome everyone to Alltrades DQ Media Abbey, a Slime Time podcast spinoff where we review various Dragon Quest media, including manga and anime.
We are currently reviewing a Dragon Quest-inspired parody show called The Brave Yoshihiko and the Dragon Quest X tie-in manga, Rooming with a Gamer Gal. We'll start with Yoshihiko first. We gotta seal those monsters away.
In the Brave Yoshihiko Season 2, Episode 2, our heroes run into the Great Buddha, who informs them that the key to seal the monsters away has been lost. They must search for various keys until they find the correct one to seal away the monsters. Their first lead is a town where the village chief's son is about to marry a princess. He owns a valuable key that he plans to give to his bride, so he won't give it up to our heroes. As they negotiate, a messenger brings news that the princess has been kidnapped by bandits. Oh no! The heroes fight numerous monsters and bandits in order to rescue a woman whom they assume to be the princess. Unfortunately, the captive is actually the princess's attendant, so they can't get the key back just yet. Yoshihiko and friends are then forced to return to the bandit camp and free the real princess, who claims her image has been cursed by a monster. The heroes then head to a poisonous swamp to get the Mirror of Rue, a powerful artifact that can change the princess back to her true form. The groom finally gives them the key, but it doesn't work, so they head off on their next adventure.
Apparently, the Buddha finds a more appropriate save to return our heroes to, as they appear unharmed from their unfortunate second encounter with the Demon King at the end of the season opener. However, they are still at level 0. The opening bit with the Gailu girl and her boyfriend is a lot of fun. She acts all kawaii, and they both act overly passionate about their situation. Maylube, who's great at calling out BS that doesn't make much sense, is great here as everyone else is revealed to be comically sad about the young couple's fake death scene. This brings me to how much I really enjoy Maylube's character in general. It just happened to stand out to me in this episode in particular. Whether it be him making those sounds as Yoshihiko is going too far with his description of the princess, his weird spells, such as the underbite spell, or when he's discussing something with Yoshihiko and says, I don't know about that. He's just such an odd person sometimes, and I love some of his reactions. He's really become my favorite of all the main characters. I also loved the appearance of the Robin Hood type bandit they encounter. It's appropriately comical and a lot thinner than you would expect, of course. Now, with the princess's appearance, everyone else tries to be diplomatic about it, but of course, naive Yoshihiko is comically straight to the point about the princess's appearance, as usual. The Buddha interactions here were a lot of fun in this episode, as they usually are. He doesn't get any respect in this episode. Maylube and Murasaki are impatient with him, and Danjo is just straight up intimidating and mean. It is hilarious that the Buddha actually gets intimidated by Danjo as well. I love that they trade Yoshihiko's 3D glasses in for solar eclipse glasses in this season, at least so far. The Mirror of Rue in this episode is, of course, a Dragon Quest reference to the Mirror of Ra, which also has the effect of showing someone's true image. It first shows up in Dragon Quest 3 and is a very important item that you need to collect to find the true image of a certain boss. The way they get the mirror from the poison swamp is a lot of fun. I love how they made the poison swamp tiles like you would see in older Dragon Quest games with similar effects. The Monty Python-esque scene with the dog, while entertaining, was a joke that's getting a little stale. This is the third time they've had a tiny, cute creature attack them in a similar fashion, though the underbite spell saving the day is pretty funny. Now, of course, we are back to Yoshihiko's sister playing various characters at the end of each episode. Here she's a ninja type person who is captured. Will that play play into next week's episode? Or is this just another specific reference that went over my head? Probably the latter, but we'll see.
This episode is introduced by a rock bomb, a monster that first appeared in Dragon Quest III. It looks like a blue-gray boulder with a sinister face on it. The Japanese name for it is Bakudan Iwa, which means bomb rock. How about that? I find it disappointing that this episode doesn't resolve the cliffhanger from the season opener, but the show has a history of jumping past fights sometimes, so it's not a big surprise. The bandits at the start that you mentioned are very silly. The girl in particular is both affordable. What did I mean by affordable?
Adorable?
Adorable. Probably adorable. She's affordable, so go ahead and get her. Wow. Okay. The girl in particular is both adorable and ridiculous. She has pink hair, a jean vest with furry white shoulders, a colorful scarf with a stuffed star on it, a multicolored skirt, white hose and shoes, and some strange fake eyelashes. It's an irresistible combination of cute and annoying. Bad luck for her that her boyfriend is weak to paper cuts.
Bad luck to her that she's so affordable for Paul.
Hey, no way, man. I'm a good boyfriend. No. Anyway, about the costume, though, I like how a lot of the costumes in the show seem to be just like thrown together from a props department. Like they just had a bunch of stuff and they randomly throw it on somebody. It's funny and creates some unique and interesting looks.
Definitely.
The party encounters Robin Hood, a humanoid enemy who first appeared in Dragon Quest III. In Japan, he is named Kandata after a fictional thief, so our version being named after Robin Hood makes sense. I like that the heroes joke about him being thinner than they expected. The game version is quite buff. On the downside, we don't get to see most of the fight. After both sides take a swing, it just skips to the party camping for the night. Who'd have thought? Melib's new underbite spell is pretty fun. The best thing is just how much Yoshihiko loves having it cast on him. He always wants stuff to be cast on him, but he's ecstatic about this one. He's a lovable weirdo. You mentioned the episode having the small animal from Monty Python bit, and this episode also goes back to the well of having a lady who is expected to look pretty end up being ugly instead. They don't use all the same jokes for that part at least, so it's not too bad. Shame on the party for only rescuing the beautiful maiden in the first place.
Exactly. They abandoned the other girls. Like, whatever. Not very heroic. Well, next is the Brave Yoshihiko Season 2, Episode 3. After nearly being defeated by a poison mist, we find our heroes exhausted from their travels. They arrive at a town that is mysteriously devoid of women, and the men are all behaving like cats during the night. The party wants to travel on, but Yoshihiko, in true Dragon Quest hero fashion, insists on solving the town's problems. They meet with a wise man who explains that the monster has cursed the men to behave like cats and taken away all of the women. Because Yoshihiko and Danjo are the more experienced fighters, they dress up in drag and try to lure the monster into taking them. However, the monster sees through the ruse and captures Murasaki instead. Murasaki's bird finds Yoshihiko and guides the team to her, who is toiling away in the fields of the monster's domain. There are monsters there, but a human is the real boss who is responsible for the curse and capturing all the women. Melub uses Yoshihiko as bait, and they confront the boss, who is actually a huge monster in disguise. Murasaki distracts the monster, and Yoshihiko defeats it, freeing the woman and lifting the curse on the men of the village. The Buddha is initially mad about the side quest, but after a quick apology, the heroes adventure onward.
This one is introduced by a Funghoul, a monster that first appeared in Dragon Quest III, much like the previous monsters we mentioned. Funghoul is a red-capped mushroom with stubby arms and legs and a face with a tongue hanging out. Japanese name for it is Obake Kinoko. Obake means goblin, and Kinoko means mushroom. Goblin and ghoul are close enough for the translation to be accurate, right? I think so. This time, the team faces a bandit who uses a potion to spit poison breath. Too bad for him, the wind isn't on his side. In this episode, we see the return of Melub's Yoshizumi spell, which gives Murasaki thick eyebrows. I think he used it before anyway. It's a powerful combination when used with underbite.
Yeah, with that bandit with the mist, at first I was like, this is okay. But then when the mist changed direction, or at least the wind changed direction, and then the mist started chasing our heroes as well, that's when I was like, that was pretty good. I like that.
Yeah, it had a fine payoff.
Yes.
The premise of the cat curse and the missing women and such is unique, but very reminiscent of Dragon Quest games. In many of the games, especially Dragon Quest VII, the heroes arrive at a town and discover that it has a strange situation and backstory. That's my favorite part of 7, in fact. Here we get the cat curse and the women being abducted. A double whammy. But the downside to the cursed village plotline is the villain being a weird gay guy guy. When Pendy talks about it in a minute, you'll find that this part of the show awakens strange feelings inside of him. Well, that's okay. But yeah, gay jokes are a little more acceptable in Japan than in the United States. I do find it funny that the villain grabbing Yoshihiko's junk ends up paralyzing him. Yoshihiko's disguise with the fake beard must be some kind of reference, and I look forward to you explaining that because I don't know a thing about it. It looks suitably funny at least. The episode ends with Hisa, Yoshihiko's sister, swinging a nunchuck around before she gets conked on the head. She's actually pretty good with the chucks, doing some moves that would take a bit of practice. I have several nunchucks myself, and I love using them, even though I'm not great with them yet. I definitely should practice more. But if nunchucks look fun to you, I recommend getting a foam practice pair on Amazon. They're not expensive.
Nice. Here we discover that Maylube has a magical Yelp power. Yes, that Yelp, the website where people can rate various restaurants and other businesses. It's hilarious that he ends up detecting a restaurant with a 3.82 rating. Later on in the town, I love that they play the Dragon Quest Inn jingle, although it gets interrupted by what Yoshihiko discovers to be the cat curse when he awakens in the middle of the night. When Yoshihiko and Danjo are dressed in drag trying to be captured by the monsters, I learned a new term, mincing. I had always heard of mincing meat, but here it's the alternate meaning, which means a man acting effeminately. Of course, Yoshihiko and especially Danjo are absolutely horrible at it. I do love that Maylube refers to them both as the No Pride Parade, my favorite joke in the whole episode. And hey, we learned that the bird is actually real now. Even Maylube is surprised. And I love that this time it's Yoshihiko doing the poor ventriloquism for the bird that Maylube calls out as fake. Whenever they do a fourth wall break about the show's low-budget shenanigans, it's almost always a great time. I also love that they introduced monsters joining the party in this episode. As soon as that one slime reappeared, I knew right away that's exactly where they were going with it. They don't really play with the concept too much in this episode, though. I hope it's one of those instances where they're establishing a concept that will pay off in later episodes. Now, Yoshihiko turning into a cat was great, and the most hilarious part, I thought, was when Yoshihiko is getting into Danjo's lap and purring after getting some scritches. And my second favorite joke of the episode is Maylube's fart spell. By itself, it isn't that impressive, but the fact that it has so many levels, like other Dragon Quest spells, had me reeling. More fart, multi-fart, all the way up to omni-fart. That's a very multifaceted fart spell if there ever was one. Now, later on, some of the sexual humor in this episode had me confused, specifically the confrontation with the boss. Yoshihiko's costume is supposed to be appealing to this effeminately costumed gay person, I guess. Is the blue coloring on this chin supposed to be a fake beard or something? That's what I was thinking. So I turned to my wife from South Korea for an answer. And the answer is that they had him dressed up as what the Japanese call an akoma. It's a man that is gay, that has taken on effeminate characteristics and or cross-dresses, and in animation is often indicated by bright red lips and blue coloring to indicate beard stubble. So they're doing that with Yoshihiko here, but for the joke went way too far with the beard stubble paint for comedic effect. Later on, with this Okama confrontation, I did appreciate that the animated boss monster was an effeminate version of an actual Dragon Quest monster. In this case, it was designed after the tree face monster. I hope that's a trend going forward with the big bosses that they have. I was not impressed by the original designs of the animated boss monsters in the first season, so hopefully this will be an improvement for the second season going forward. At the end of the episode, we see the sister in another martial arts getup insisting again that she will help Yoshihiko, only to yet again get knocked out. Seeing this happen a second time, I actually get the joke now. Based on her clothing and look, I'm guessing she's more of a Chinese martial artist in this episode, and overall, just another solid episode of Brave Hero Yoshihiko.
That's right. And now we discuss rooming with a gamer gal. We start with Server 45, a lovely date. In this chapter, Miyako is still visiting Satsuki in his new city. They both wake up early to go to Universal Studios Japan in Osaka. Miyako buys them both chocobo hats that Satsuki is initially wary about wearing. He eventually gets used to it and starts to enjoy his time with her. They go on a Final Fantasy themed ride and get commemorative pictures as well. They spend the entire day at the park, both having a really fun time together. At the end of their date, Miyako is sad that she'll soon be heading back to Tokyo, away from Satsuki again.
What is this, a Dragon Quest manga or Final Fantasy manga? What the hell? No, I'm kidding. It was cool. I liked it. And plus, like they pointed out before, at the time of when this manga was being created, all the Dragon Quest stuff, unfortunately, had moved on from Universal Studios. Now, I completely relate to a lot of this server due to my previous 2 trips to Universal Studios Japan. Getting up early as they did was the right idea. I remember doing the same the second time I went there with my wife, but it still wasn't quite early enough. Just like in the manga, the park was absolutely packed. It didn't help that we went on a weekend during the summer, a peak time for the park. I would have normally tried to go on a weekday like we did for Dragon Quest Island on that same trip, but our schedule didn't allow it. And at least it was a Sunday and not a Saturday. I can't imagine how bad it would have been on a Saturday. Our problem was that we were switching hotels that day, so we had our luggage with us. I had forgotten from the last time that the luggage lockers were on the outside of the park, not inside. Stupid mistake on my part. So we went through the entire line and had to be redirected. It was so hard to tell because there was just an absolute mass of people, unlike the first time I went there. You couldn't really see much. Then we ran into some issue with our tickets and got diverted to the ticket office on the side. Thankfully, my wife was able to use her limited Japanese to talk our way in. Getting the tickets the second time was an issue as well. The online electronic system was no longer taking foreign credit cards or PayPal. Nothing I had worked, so my wife had a friend in Japan get our tickets at a Japanese convenience store. In Japan, convenience stores are a common way to get tickets to theme parks and various events. And even with that, we almost didn't get in. When we finally did get in, it was a wonderful time. We got to do the new Super Nintendo World that had just opened up there and wasn't ready in America yet. My wife really enjoyed all the Minions and Harry Potter attractions. They had a Jujutsu Kaisen attraction that I really enjoyed, and even though the animation they showed was only in Japanese. We both wanted to do the Spy Family attraction, but it was an event that required being able to read Japanese and go on some sort of mystery hunt. Neither of us could do that, so we had to skip it. At this park, they still had the big Spider-Man ride that's no longer in America. It was hilarious because it really made my wife scream from surprise at one part as our vehicle was web-slinged around by Spider-Man as he battled various villains. I was talking with one of my friends, and he was telling me how the exact same thing happened to him with his wife. Like, she screamed really loud at the same part. So that was entertaining. I was hoping that my wife could also do the Monster Hunter ride there because she's really big into that series, but we didn't get to it in time. She wasn't too disappointed though, as she did get to enjoy the Monster Hunter bar earlier in our trip in Tokyo. In the manga, they get an express pass. It's expensive, but well worth the money in my opinion. It saves you so much time. I can't imagine getting to as many rides and attractions as we did without it, at least in one day. We saved so many hours cutting our waits in line. The express pass in Japan is much different though. In America, you can get an express pass that works once for every attraction that accepts it, which is most of them. Even more times per ride if you spend more money. In Japan, they have express pass packages. So for example, you could get what's called an adventure pack that has all the adventure themed typed attractions. I honestly didn't like how they had that set up. Now, getting into Super Nintendo World was a challenge too. They could only handle so many people in a day at any point in time. So as soon as you entered the park, you had to reserve a time block to get in. If you waited too long, it would fill up too fast and you were locked out for the day. They just only took so many people. Thankfully, we got there early enough to reserve a time block to do it. It's worth going there. All the little mini games you can play, plus the rides, were a lot of fun. Plus, you could buy an interactive wrist device to collect coins and be part of a team that competed with each other throughout the day. I think I was Team Yoshi and my wife was Team Boo. As they show in the manga, the Japanese loved their themed hats. When I went to the park the first time, they had these adorable slime hats, just like the chocobo hats that Satsuki and Miyako wear. I saw a lot of kids running around with them. It was really cute. It's great that Miyako eggs on Satsuki to wear one of the chocobo hats. They look like a perfect couple with those on. I also hadn't realized that Universal had done a Final Fantasy 15 attraction at that point. It's weird that Final Fantasy 7 characters were somehow involved, but whatever. But I'm not surprised that they had that kind of event though. There is a part of the park that always has multiple attractions going on for various anime and video games. It's really amazing. Lastly, I really related with Miyako's feelings at the end of the server. She dreads that she'll have to part with Satsuki. I get the same way anytime I'm visiting my wife overseas or when she's visiting me here, just as she did this past month. Oh, and lastly, for real, I almost forgot to mention that I really love the server cover. Seeing Goro and Pao on a date with the big slime balloon is a really fun image that corresponded with what Satsuki and Miyako are doing in real life in the manga.
I don't envy these characters. Their long-distance relationship, missing each other, sucks. I haven't been to a theme park in 20 years or so. I think it's exactly 20 years.
Oh.
A long time. The crowds in the manga and your story don't make me miss them very much. Although I would totally go to one for a Dragon Quest or Final Fantasy attraction. But my local movie theater chain is AMC Theaters, and they have an express pass type thing. You pay for a membership for, I don't know, like 12 or 16 a year or something, and you don't have to wait in the regular line. And sometimes people give you a dirty look, but that's what they get for not paying for the membership, man.
Yeah, I've had those before. You get like so many, well, it depends on the theater. Like some theaters are like you get so many movie passes a year or a month, and some are like just like unlimited, as many movies as you want to see during the year, as long as you're paying the monthly subscription fee. So it depends. But yeah, I've done that before.
Well, there you go. But I don't have the membership where you see a certain number of movies a week or a month. It's just you get to skip lines and you earn extra rewards.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know they had that separated like that. That's cool.
Yeah, because the monthly thing, that would be like 20 a month or something. I'm talking about less than 20 for a year, and it's just the lines and the bonus kisses, but it's still financially worthwhile because the extra reward points you get end up getting you, it pays for itself within a year easily.
Yeah.
So I like that. Anyway, crowds aside, Satsuki and Miyako's date looks really fun. Miyako is all smiles the whole time. It's very endearing. Satsuki's unhealthy insecurities come up at times, but Miyako rolls with it, and he ends up coming out of his shell for the most part. I love how patient she is with him, because in America at least, a lot of girls would be put off by that stuff, but it's like she just knows him and understands him and takes it all in, which is great of her. When the two of them take a photo together, Satsuki makes a really funny face too. It's sweet how they hold hands at the end.
Yeah, it was a nice server, the way they interacted with each other. And next is server 46, A Long Day Together. After a long day at Universal Studios Japan, our couple decides to take a nap and hop on Dragon Quest X for some playtime. They find some other Heaven Slime guildmates and decide to challenge a coin boss. After some trial and error, they eventually win the tough battle. Sasuke then dips out for a minute and returns to find that Miyako has fallen asleep. The next morning, Sasuke builds up the courage to give Miyako a kiss on the cheek goodbye. This inspires Miyako to bring up the idea of marriage?
This is a good chapter that shows the star couple squeezing in some serious Dragon Quest X just before Miyako has to leave. You'll cover most of the specifics, Pendy, but I will say that I'm not put off by Satsuki's doubts here. Feeling out of your league with a gorgeous girl isn't necessarily a character flaw. When I was younger, I had a girl, a long-distance girlfriend, who was pretty much the prettiest girl I had dated up to that point. She was so cool. I never tried to talk myself out of being with her or anything, but I was in awe of her at times. Satsuki doesn't have any dating experience, and Miyako is definitely a gorgeous girl, so I understand how he feels. Satsuki and Miyako finally have a kiss. Well, Satsuki kisses her on the cheek, and that's it, but it's a start. I'm sure they'll end up locking lips in another 10 chapters or so. Miyako bringing up the topic of marriage is certainly abrupt, considering that they've never even had a kiss, let alone a gross Japanese-style French kiss. Have you ever seen the weird way they French over there? Unacceptable. But Japan is a place that still does arranged marriages, and Satsuki and Miyako are perfect for each other, so I don't think that's too strange in their culture for her to think about marrying him. Me, I've got a wife who played Dragon Quest Tact with me when that was around, and still plays the Earth Defense Force games with me, and I'd have been crazy to let that go. I'll never find another woman who'd do both of those things. It's the same thing with Satsuki and Miyako sharing Dragon Quest X. She could find another dude player, sure, but he'd be very unlikely to do so. Put a ring on that finger, dude.
Maybe it's because I'm older now and was still middle-aged back then, but man, I could not imagine myself doing a full day at a theme park and then going on to do some hardcore online gaming later that day, even with a nap involved. I was exhausted after doing Universal Studios Japan both times that I went. In this server, Miyako and Sasuke challenge a coin boss in Dragon Quest X. They didn't really explain the concept in the manga, so I went to the Dragon's Den Discord for help. Apparently, coin bosses can be defeated for special accessories. Typically, they are legacy bosses like the Green Dragon, Amon, or Atlas. Nemeslime is a special boss that was introduced in Dragon Quest Monsters Joker 2. I love how, at the beginning of the fight, the characters look all serious, except for Pao, who's just standing there with a big stupid grin on her face. When Sasuke is trying to recall something and Miyako teases him for having a crappy memory, I completely related to that. It was a big, hey, that's me moment. Sometimes my recall is not the best with past events. I even repeat things to my wife, as she usually points out. And Miyako bopping Sasuke for wanting to bow out of the coin boss is totally warranted. She's right that the whole point of them taking on the boss is the experience, even if they aren't completely suited for it as a party. That's the whole fun of it. It reminded me of our Dragon Quest Tact Guild days. Yes, we were in a pretty competitive guild, but were we the top team? No, but I would not have traded that to be on the Taiwanese team that was the top team, or that team led by that YouTuber that was such an ass. We had a great group of people in the Aces Guild, and that was more than half the fun of it all. When Sasuke started to talk about not being a good enough guy for Miyako, I have to admit I started to cringe, but he did recover after explaining it only motivated him to be a better boyfriend. I mean, I guess that's okay, but you need to realize your self-worth in a relationship or it won't end well usually, and you'll just be miserable too much of the time. And when your partner knows you think you aren't good enough for them, they usually just move on to someone who does think they are good enough. You gotta have that confidence or it will just eat you up inside. But the most shocking part of this server, of course, is that Miyako brings up the idea of marriage. We haven't had a real kiss yet, but hey, maybe maybe we should start thinking about marriage? That's just crazy. In Dragon Quest terms, they might want to level up a bit more. I was just really shocked when she decided to bring that up, almost out of the blue. It was funny to see the online comments blowing up for this server as well, similar to what happened when Sasaki confessed to Miyako. Another great server cover here too that relates to the story, with Pao getting excited and then sleepy.
Now we have server 47. Life is... After Miyako proposes the idea of marriage to Satsuki, his life flashes before his eyes. Miyako realizes he's not ready to talk about it yet, so she immediately takes off to the train station. Satsuki starts to think back to his days of Dragon Quest V and picking a bride in that game. The idea of marriage shocked him back then as well. He thought marrying someone and having children was a fun idea, but never expected it for himself. He was content to hang out with his friends and enjoy his hobbies of books, manga, anime, and video games. All the best stuff in life. He never really yearned for marriage. It was fine to see his peers go off and get married themselves. But then he met Miyako. Everything started to change. Realizing this, he chases Miyako down the stairs and professes his commitment to her. Miyako reciprocates and even shares that she loves him. It's at that moment Satsuki realizes he has become the main character in his own RPG life.
Before we get into the deep stuff, I love seeing Pal in this cover panel dressed up as a Dragon Quest V hero with his trusty saber cat. The artist has really been killing it with all three of these server cover panels we've reviewed during this podcast episode. When Miyako just leaves like she did, I was flabbergasted. How can she just drop something like that on Sasaki and then just take off? Honestly, I don't blame him for his initial reaction. That's a lot to suddenly throw on a guy when they haven't even had a real kiss. Wow. But what I do know is that after some quick self-reflection, chasing after Miyako was 100% the right move to do. When a woman does that to you when you're in a relationship and you realize you might have messed up, you have to go after her and try and make it up on the spot in some way. Maybe it's just common for Asian women, I don't know. It's only happened to me with my second wife, who is South Korean. I remember the first time I was with her in a bar in South Korea. She storms out and I'm just sitting there dumbfounded. Another Korean woman, who is a good friend of mine, stares at me for a second and then just yells at me. It's like, go chase after her, you dummy. I did, and it was definitely a good decision. The second time it happened was during a trip she took to visit me in America before we got married. Me going after her and talking out our issues probably saved our relationship that night, and that was well before we got married too. But anywho, back to the manga. Yay! A Deborah reference! Her edition in 5 was great. She has the funniest dialogue and best character growth of all three choices, in my opinion. I was so happy to see that in all of the Dragon Quest V marriage talk references. I do have to pull out the actually card though. He talks about having all three choices when he first played Dragon Quest V. You can see he's clearly playing a console, but Deborah only shows up in the DS and the mobile versions of Dragon Quest V. Fire the author! Obviously a fake Dragon Quest fan. Come on. I'm just kidding, of course, but that was an interesting error. And also, Miyako throws out the L word.
Lesbian?
The other L word.
Lesbians?
Love! Sasaki doesn't say it back, but I'm sure this gets addressed in the next server as they are still in the moment. All in all, these three servers were very exciting and entertaining. I loved them all. It was reminiscent of reviewing the servers revolving around Sasaki's confession of his feelings towards Miyako. Oh, and Deborah Best Girl, of course.
This chapter gives us some good insight into Satsuki's feelings about marriage and himself. I think things would have been fine if he hadn't chased Miyako down, but his profession is fairly romantic and clearly strengthens the relationship. I'm glad that Miyako loves him. Dude better say it back in the next chapter.
Oh yeah, or he's in trouble. So in the Yoshihiko episodes we reviewed today, they advertised a Yoshihiko figure and music CD. This inspired me to see what kind of Yoshihiko merchandise was out there.
What did you find in your internet searches? Nothing lewd, I hope. I know how you are, mister.
No Okama this time. And honestly, not a whole lot. There's actually a very detailed Yoshihiko figure out there, but not like what this past episode was advertising. It's a very detailed figure by Figma, who has done other Dragon Quest figures in the past.
That would be cool to have. Anything else? What about the DVDs and Blu-rays that the show often advertises?
I was thinking about collecting them, but wow, they are expensive. DVD sets were going for $50 minimum, and that's like per season, and Blu-ray sets were going for $100. I did find a set for a season that was under $30, but you can tell it's just an obvious knockoff, and I'm not really interested in that.
Yeah, and those are pretty standard Japanese media prices, which is very annoying. A long time ago, I used to collect Japanese DVDs now and then, and yeah, that was basically a waste of money when you think about it compared to American prices.
Yes, because from my research, I remember seeing that because people in Japan just in general don't have a lot of space, so there's not like a whole lot of people that have a lot of space for collecting a lot of things like we may do in America. So when they release a DVD or a Blu-ray of something, a lot of times it's like a limited set. Like they're only going to print out so many copies. And because of that, because they're not printing out like thousands and thousands of copies that you see over, all different stores like you would in America, that's going to drive the price up. It's not going to be as cheap and affordable as it was in America when DVDs and Blu-rays were more of a thing, as those are going away here.
And that's only one factor. It's been a while since I read up on this, but another issue is like the home video companies basically sort of conspired to keep prices at a certain level. And people, they had a thriving rental market there. I don't know if they still do. It seems kind of unlikely, but they had this thriving rental market because things were too expensive to buy. So you would just rent the movie or whatever and make your own copy at home from the rental copy. So, and all because of the deliberate price fixing. And I think for the most part, they've maintained those high prices. Although I do know that you can get Blu-rays of international movies like Fright Night and things like that for much cheaper than regular Japanese media. So for more reasonable prices.
Got it.
Anyway, where's Melub and his spell that makes Yoshihiko video sets cheap, or at least more affordable when you need it?
Right? I did get one piece of Yoshihiko merchandise, though. It's some sort of companion book to the first season. It looks like it might all be text, but hopefully has some images in there as well. And it does have a fun cover, and even though I won't be able to read it, it will be a fun collector's item to have.
That's the spirit. Did it break your searchable wall sack, though?
No, there's always room in your searchable wall sack. Not at all. It was only about $4 or $5 at Suruguya, which had a free shipping promotion at the time. So, of course, I also picked up a few other Dragon Quest items, including a Dragon Lord glass, a Monster Battle Road Deborah card, of course, a little Zoma figure, and some sort of Dragon Quest IV PlayStation 1 guide.
Those all sound like great things to own. And with that, we wrap up this episode of Alltrades DQ Media Abbey. If you want to prepare for our next episode, be sure to watch Season 2, Episodes 4 and 5 of The Brave Yoshihiko, and read chapters 48 to 50 of Rooming with the Gamer Gal. The Brave Yoshihiko is available with fan subs on the Internet Archive website, and Rooming with the Gamer Gal is available through the Manga Up app.
We're a non-profit podcast. We won't suddenly storm off with your hard-earned gold when we can offer you quality content for free. But if you do have some extra gold that's just completely burning a hole in your wallet, pouch, chocobo hat, or treasure chest, and you would like to donate anything to a website that's been supporting Dragon Quest fans for over 25 years, stop by the Dragon's Den by clicking the link in the show notes. There are several ways to support the Den, including the affiliate links that don't cost you anything extra when making other Dragon Quest purchases, especially the upcoming Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D remake, everybody.
Yeah, show us that love, folks. Speaking of which, we have a cool Slime Time t-shirt and an even cooler Alltrades DQ Media Abbey shirt, both designed by our resident artist, Dwayne. See the links for them in the show notes.
As part of the Slime Time Extended Universe, or STU, you can direct comments or questions for the podcast on X and Instagram at DQ Slime Time and Blue Sky.
Blue Sky's the best. And you can follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/EastX Twitch. Come watch me play a variety of games every Saturday, kids.
Join in tons of Dragon Quest discussion at the Dragon's Den forums and Discord, and the Dragon Questers and Slime Time Facebook groups, plus the new Dragon Questers Discord.
We'd like to thank everyone that made this podcast possible, including Woodis, the Dragon's Den, and the pink-haired girl from Yoshihiko. She's crazy, but I'd still date her, baby.
I hear she's very affordable. Please like, subscribe, and write a review for the podcast.
We'll catch you later, everybody. Don't hate, appreciate.
Time to zoom on out of here.
風がそよいでジャスミンが香る雲が流れてクジラが泳ぐよ芝生に寝転んで
This is Gertrude for Slime Time, reminding you all that you must complete your adventure.